Good evening to everybody. Welcome to this afternoon's session. Today we're going to be talking about project constraints. We're going to be looking at projects that are constrained by either time or cost or resources. As usual, I like to begin our session by looking at what our learning outcomes are. And there are two learning outcomes for this afternoon session. We'll be looking at trying to define what a project constraint is. We also will be looking to apply the smoothing technique to projects that are constrained by the time or cost or resources for that matter. Our agenda for today, these are the things I wish to cover during this 15-minute session. Review our network diagram, topic we covered in the last session. Just want to make sure that we have a good grasp, a good understanding of network diagrams in order to go forward to understanding how to deal with projects that are constrained. Then we're going to talk about the meaning of constraints. So what does it mean when we talk about a project that is constrained by either time or resources. Then we'll be looking at the smoothing technique, and then we will close off. During all of this, we'll have a few activities, just to add a little bit of life to our session. Okay, so let us begin. And I'm going to start by asking a few questions related to last week's session. My first question for you, and anybody could answer, is what is slack? Can anybody tell me? Yes, Mary. That's correct. Slack is the amount of time you can delay an activity in your network, on your project, before it becomes critical. Right? Can anybody else tell me what's the formula for calculating slack? That's correct. It's the difference between either your early start and your late start, or your early finish and your late finish. Next question. What is critical path? And I know you all know what critical path is. So, I don't want everybody shouting. Can somebody quickly tell us what the critical path is? Yes, John. The critical path is the longest path in our network diagram, and it's the earliest we can, based on our calculation, the earliest we can complete our project. Excellent. And then the final question for you all is, what are critical activities? And that's an easy one. You got it. A critical activity is an activity on your critical path, or an activity that has zero slack. Thanks a lot for your quick responses to those questions. Let's move on. And what I'm going to do for starters is to just quickly review the calculation of backward and forward pass as we did in last week's session. Let me just clean my little board off, and then we will talk about a simple example. I'm just going to do a 4 or 5 activity example, and then we will do the forward and backward pass calculation on it. So if you follow along with me, so those are our activities. And I'll put the arrows in. Remember, arrows go from left to right in all cases. Right, so we have 5 activities in this network diagram. We're starting out at A and we're finishing at E. Let us put some duration in. So I'll put 10 days here. I will put 16 days here. I'll put this at 9 days. I'll put this at 12 days. And we go 13 days over here. Right, and I think you all remember exactly how we calculate our network, our backward and forward pass computation. Can somebody tell me how we start? We start Correct. We start at A. And I'm going to change the color just to do that. Forward pass calculation. So we move forward, it's a forward pass calculation. So we say we start on day 0, right? Day 0. And what's the formula for calculate? So we have our early start. What comes over here? Correct. Our early finish. Early finish is equal to, and I'll write it here. Give it to me. Early finish is equal to early start plus duration. So it's early start plus duration. Our duration is 10, so 10 plus 0 is 10. What do we do next? Correct. We take our early finish over to the next activity. Right? So it's 10 here. Should we put 10 at C? Yes, we should. So we apply the same formula. 10 plus 16 is 26 for your early finish here. And your early finish on C is 10 plus 9. That's 19. What do we do next? Now we have a challenge. We have 2 early finishes that will influence what we do over D. But of course, here we go. I have a bright set of students here. So it's 26 that goes over to D. And if we were to add our duration again, it becomes 38. And of course, E is the only successor to D, therefore we move the 38 over. E cannot start until D is completed. The same thing applied here. We could not start D till both B and C are completed. B finishes last, and therefore that's the early start for D. So our duration plus our early start here gives us our early finish on E, which is 13 plus 38, that's 51. So that tells us that the duration of our project is 51 days. That's the earliest we can complete our project, 51 days. So we've done the forward pass. Our next challenge is to determine what your backward pass is. And our backward pass calculation, again, the form where our early finish becomes our late finish. Right? So the latest we can finish this is 51 days. Let me change the color and I'll use green. So 51 days. 51, now we are doing the opposite. We are saying that our late start, which is what is here, late start is equal to our late finish minus our duration. So our late start for E becomes 51 minus 13, that is 38. Of course, now we're going to take our late start becomes our late finish at D. So that's 38. 38 minus 12, applying that formula, gives us 26. We carry that 26 over here. Our late start becomes our late finish at C. 26 minus 9 is 17. What do we do over here? We take our 26 over here. Our late start becomes our late finish at B. So 26 goes here. 26 minus 16 is 10. And now we have to make a decision here. We have 10 and 17. And it says we take the smallest number over to A. So it's 10. 10 minus 10 is 0. So we have completed our forward and our backward pass computation for our simple network diagram here. The next step in the process is, can somebody tell me what the next step is? Exactly. We calculate our slack. So slack here is the difference between, can somebody tell me? Slack is equal to the difference between our early start and our late start. And it's also equal to our early finish minus our late finish. So let's apply it here. We can take any one of them. 38 minus 38 means that we have 0 slack on E. On 26 minus 26, that's a 0 slack on D. Here we have 10 minus 17 gives us 7, so we have a slack of 7 days on C. On B we have 0, 10 minus 10. On A we have 0. What does this tell us? That's correct. It tells us that our critical activities are those activities that we said earlier on were activities with 0 slack. So it's A, B, D, and E. Those are our critical activities, and hence our critical path is a path on which all our activities have 0 slack. So the critical path becomes A, B, D, and E. Okay, so that is our review of last week's session that is relevant to what we are going to be doing today. Are there any questions related to what we have just done? No questions? Excellent. It suggests that you all understand what we have just done, and we can now apply that to our lesson going forward. Okay, let's just move on. Let us now talk about projects that are time constrained, right? And what does that mean? A time constrained project is one where anybody, I'm sure you read it. Right, that's correct. A time constrained project is one where there is an imposed completion date. And date has been imposed. It means that you cannot, it's not acceptable for you to go beyond the date that you've been given to complete that project. So I repeat that. It says a time constrained project is one where the completed date has been imposed and it has to be achieved. Anything other than that means that you've failed with your project, and that's not what we want to do with our projects. In time constrained projects, it says that time is fixed, and there's usually a tendency for there to be some flexibility in your resources. So it means that you may use more than what is planned in terms of your resources to achieve success with completing a project on time. I'm going to ask you to give me some examples of what you would consider time constrained projects. A show of hands. Yes, Amy. Good, thanks. A friend's wedding, right? Your friend says the wedding is going to be on December the 31st, and that's the date your project has to be completed for. You have to make sure that on the 31st, all the activities are completed to ensure the wedding function goes as planned. Another one? Yes, Charles. Excellent. Your college barbecue that is planned for a warm Saturday afternoon in June, first Saturday in June. That is a constraint on time. Means that you have to have everything planned in order to meet your first Saturday in June in 2016. I take two more. Right. A concert season. You know, we have these all the time. You know, a concert season in Toronto, they go on all the time. They have to start at a certain time, you know, and they go on for a few weeks, a few months sometimes. And then, yes, the Olympic Games. Excellent one. You know, we have seen in the past where there has been a mad scramble, you know, to get things done in order to meet the set date for your Olympic Games. And that's how it is. So those are excellent examples of projects that have time constraint attached to them. Let us talk, so we've spoken about time constraint projects. Let us talk quickly about resource constraint projects. And resource constraint projects would suggest what? We have looked at the meaning of time constraint. What would resource suggest? Excellent. Resource constraint projects are those where there is a limitation on the amount of resources that you can use in your project. The definition actually says it's one in which the level of resources available cannot be exceeded. Right? And I'll give you a quick example. Go back to that wedding example. And the bride and the groom says to you, you're going to do my project for me, you're going to do my wedding as a project, but I have only $50,000 assigned to this project. It means that they have put a restriction on the amount of money you can spend on your project. Everybody agrees with that? Yes. Can I get some more examples? Excellent. That's a good one. A young couple wanting to build a house, and they have only $150,000 put aside for that house. It means that if you're the project manager for that project, you have to make sure that you don't go beyond the $150,000 that this young couple has to put into that project. Another one? Yes, excellent. You have been assigned to build a gaming computer, right? And that's a project you're working on. Excellent. One technician assigned to that project, you can't go and find another technician because that's all you're assigned. And then finally one more, again somebody mentioned the Olympics. $3 million assigned to building a stadium in the Olympics. That's also a constraint. So those are excellent examples of constraint projects. And you're going to come upon projects that are either time constraint or resource constraint as you work projects in the future. So we said that time constraint projects must be completed within an imposed date. And there is a technique that is employed in trying to be most efficient with such projects. And that technique is called, excellent, smoothing. Project smoothing or leveling. Right? It's a technique where we try to create efficiency in projects where there are constraints. And what is it that we tend to do? Coming back from our network diagram, what is it that gives us the most latitude, the most flexibility to apply smoothing? Anybody else? Yes, you got it. We look for activities in our project that have slack, and we work on those because that's where we have some flexibility. So that's what we do in resource smoothing. And before we get to smoothing, just look quickly at some of the benefits of applying smoothing to a project. And some of the benefits are, peak demand on resources are reduced. Resources over the life of the project are also reduced. And